Today is day 138 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC. If you would like to sponsor an upcoming shir or more of the Arukh HaShulchan OC, it would be very greatly appreciated. Please contact me directly. Today we're doing Siman Side Zayin Siv Gimel through Siman Siman Side Ches Siv Gimel. Side Zayin Gimel, Side Ches Gimel. So we're talking about not to spit, not to burp, and not to yawn during davening. Gimel. Somebody is just like somebody standing in front of a king will not be brazen enough to spit. So they're not allowed to spit during Shmoneh Esrei. We should swallow the saliva. If it's not possible to avoid spitting, such as he has mucus and phlegm, so if he can absorb the saliva and the other discharges in his garment, such as the lower garment, I guess the inner shirt, or as a handkerchief, with which he wipes his nose and the saliva. He should spit into the handkerchief. But in the outer garment, which is going to be seen publicly, you should not absorb the saliva or mucus in that. If it's not possible for him to abide and tolerate having the saliva absorbed in his garment because he's very sensitive, he should spit behind himself. It says he tosses it with his hand behind himself. It sounds like shiaruk biyad. He should spit into his hand, and he's going to and tosses it back, and not turn your head around. They wrote the Zorka Achrav, you toss it back means you should turn your head backwards and spit out. The came in Isnisu, and the Beis Yosef asked if the problem is that he's sensitive, he can't absorb his garment. How is he going to take it into his hands? Sounds like even more of an issue of sensitivity. That's I wrote the Kavanah of Rambam who gamkein aidei sudar. So that the Rambam really means put it on a handkerchief and then toss it back from the handkerchief. If he doesn't have the handkerchief, then he should toss it back with his head. Ayin Sham. Beloved, says the Arukh HaShulchan, I understand. The body kenu the leak acharok biyarash a regular zorko emisay istenius. To take saliva in your hands for a moment and toss it back, people are not that sensitive. Ashkein avla b'ksus is opposed to absorbing it in the garment. Sharoki Hasham, where the saliva will be lodged. There, that's different. That's certainly a sense a person cannot tolerate. And our senses indicate this to be true. So I'm not sure what the Beis Yosef wants. Says the Rambam that we should be concerned with the Rambam's position, and we should spit into our hand and toss it backwards, not turn our head all the way backwards. And it's clear this is just like this halacha by saliva but so too it's true by the mucus from the nose. Even though it says if somebody touches the mucus of the nose needs the tziyas dime. So we explained back then that it's enough to clean oneself in the wall or some other midei de menake. This person who is allowed to speak when he is compelled to do something, because it's better to daven in cleanliness as opposed to being in anguish. He'll also have confusion in his davening. This also seems to be the case in Yerushalmi. V'dan shows that tachtuim shachat tefillah, el kain etzor, which is after davening. Heim ketfilah, they are like davening. They are in terms of spitting. As long as you have not taken the 3 steps backwards. The close match as long as you haven't taken the 3 steps backwards, it's like you're standing for the king. Mishabur writes that tossing behind means to turn your face backwards or to do it with your hand. He accepts both possibilities and is inclined, obviously, towards leniency. Dalit. You can toss the saliva backwards or to your left. But not to your front of you and not to your right. The Shabur writes, if you have no choice but to spin in front of you or to the right, and you are mitzvah, you have anguish for in your davening, that you cannot spit, then you're allowed to spit to your right and even in front of you. But the Arukh HaShulchan is going with the idea, the tour that only specifically left and back, and from this he derives that backwards and left are equivalent. He's the Rama writes it's preferable to backwards, and if not, Zorkel, let's make it with your left. But not to your right. The kol shekain, and certainly not lift on nafsha asur. Now, for that, just been a kind of show. Shekain kosfu tamir rabbeinu yonah small odim yacharav, that to his left is better than behind him. The Shoel was then asked about this. They kosfu because we saw how do they say here that the right is better than the left? It says we're going to learn later on in terms of the 3-step backwards. Michil knows in Sholem is small. When you since Kaviyachal you're facing Kodesh Baruch Hu, so therefore you first go like this to the left, which is Kaviyachal, Kodesh Baruch Hu's right. Which means Kodesh Baruch Hu. And then to your right, which is so to speak the left of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hooray, it's small adif. So we see that left is considered to be holier. So how can you spit to your left? But until today explain the B'Sham, Sham Ivnei Shechina, there where you're standing in front of the Shechina, Ba'alei small adif. So your left side is superior. Next you can make because it's opposite the right of Hashem. Okay, here when you're spitting, you have to look at this moment as if you're not standing in front of Kodesh Baruch Hu, because otherwise, how would you spit? So therefore, at this moment, you can't judge him like standing in front of the Shechina. They don't come in the Shechina because you can't spit in front of the Shechina. That's why his right side is better. Some answer, Shechina never comes below 10 fachim. Therefore he's standing. We don't consider his left hand opposite the right of the Shechina. The Shechina is higher up anyway. Therefore his right side is superior, and therefore spit to your left side. As opposed to when you're distancing yourself backwards from the place where you daven, and you're bowing down opposite the Shechina, even though it's not directly in front of you, but you certainly gave your greeting first to the right of the Shechina, which is your left. Hey, Vida, you should know that Rambam only mentions tossing backwards. Because Rabbeinu says it's Sibra Godo. It's even first in that the mashal midvar that seems from his words, it's only allowed backwards, and that's the halacha. That's the Shulchan also only mentioned backwards. I don't understand, says Arukh HaShulchan. The Maya Sem those two can't spit backwards. Such people standing behind you. The Yerushalmi also says explicitly that left and backwards are the same. The Rambam also definitely does not argue on this point. He didn't see it necessary to expand upon this, because most times you can't spit backwards. So if a louse is stinging him, sorrow in his flesh, you can move it by with a garment. So you should not lose your kavanah because of the anguish. If it's on the garment, though it's not stinging him, do not touch it. It's only specifically davening that shouldn't take it in your hand. But if it's not time davening, take it in your hand and throw it away even in the shul. After touching the louse, you have to wash your hands. You can use the wall. And therefore, if you haven't taken your hand during davening, even though you weren't supposed to, so then also you're not going to be able to wipe your hand on the wall. So if your talis fell at time you're davening, if it moved from its place, didn't completely fall, even the majority of it fell, you can feel it out and put it back on. But if it completely fell off of you, the talis falls off of you, so you should not stop in order to put it back on, because it's an eruption. You're going to tear below the talis, you should finish davening without a talis. I think wow. The tefillin fell off your hand and your head. You should not interrupt. You finish davening without them. To also have secret tefillah can't interrupt davening. But if you don't just move a little bit, your cholach has come. You can fortify them. Come over from cool with like a talis which is not completely fallen. Then I have to there's not so much interruption. So some Mishnah Berurah on this sif. He said if it's first of all about the louse, he says if it's not during davening, you should really wash your hands with water because of the ruach ra of the louse. And if it's before davening, you certainly should wash your hands before you go to davening. The Mishnah Berurah says also about the house, even if you're only holding onto it by your hand, still not considered falling completely off, and you can put it back on. Mishnah Berurah writes if you put it back on in the middle of davening, the talis, even though you weren't supposed to, you don't go back to the beginning of the bracha. You just continue on. And when you finish the davening, you should feel it and then make the bracha on it. The Mishnah Berurah also writes, if you're torud, if you're too distracted, perhaps embarrassed, that you don't have your talis on during davening, and this is going to have a negative impact on your kavanah, you can put it back on when you finish the bracha that you're saying Shemona Esrei. Obviously, you should not say the bracha on the talis until after Shemona Esrei. Zayin. Hanose Masui Aktefo, somebody's carrying a burden on his shoulders. Pachsim Arbakam with less than 4 kav, which is very light. Mafshil Achrav, you can toss it behind yourself, Mispalo. And David, Arbakam, if it's more than 4 kav, Manicho Agabe, Karko, Mispalo, put it down on the ground. And David, since the kav is probably around, it's about 4 pounds, something like that, give or take. That which you're not supposed to put on the ground is when you're afraid it's going to be stolen. Or you need to daven traveling. Then they allowed him to put the load behind himself and continue. But if you can, actually put it on the ground. Or some place, some other place. And dam standing up without the burden. You have to do this if it's less than 4 kav. Also to hold your stick in your hand and davening nearly the asur. Seems to me that's forbidden. They gave it afraid it's going to get stolen. Put in front of you and pay attention to it. And with glasses, you can daven if they're they sit firmly on your face. I usually take off my glasses before Kriya Shema and keep them off until after Shemona Esrei. But yes, if they're going to sit in front of their face, they're not going to get bothered by them, then you don't have to take them off. Sadi Ches. Change of gears here. You have to have in mind the words that you're saying, the meaning of the words you're saying. Aleph. Tzorech la'achin. Machshavas libot. You have to prepare your thoughts, or the thoughts of your heart for davening. You'll see, like it says, T'achin libam. Prepare their hearts, then your ears will hear. You should have in mind the meaning of the words. That which you were enunciating. You should think that the Shekhinah is opposite you. And remove all the thoughts that distract you. Till the point that your thought is pure and your kavanah is clear in your davening. He was thinking in his heart, we have to talk in front of a human king. How would he carefully prepare his words and focus very, very carefully, not to stumble that which he says. And would compel himself to remove any other thoughts. Shouldn't think about them at all. Kol Shekin, certainly Melech Malachim before it stands before the King of Kings, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Shu Choker Kol Machshavos, who can analyze all your thoughts, Hu Choker Lei B'chein Klas, and sees your innermost recesses. You should certainly focus. V'kach Yu Hasim Chassidim, V'anshe Ma'aseh, she misbaited him. The Chassidim and the people who were pious in their deeds would meditate and focus on the davening to the point where they reached the point where they removed their material concerns and overcame it with their intellectual powers to the point that they were close to the level of prophecy. Now in our great iniquity, is something which is well beyond us. By the way, I think a big down, some reason big they sheish, I don't know why, but some are out there, some machlekes, whether these pashas agashmis is achieved better by fasting or by eating. In other words, is it you should be pashas agashmis by fighting it or by lulling it? I forget who the Bali machlekes are. Okay, in any event. So, and spill out the words properly before our Creator in our davening. Mishnah brings down, Yeshua says that the kavanos, many kavanos, which are explained in the Svarim, you can't have at the time of davening anyway, because there are too many of them. Tefillah and davening itself, we just have in mind Perush Hamilos. I believe the Balatani also says that as well, that all the kavanos of are before davening, but davening is just to be like a child supplicating his parent. Also, if you have the kavanos, which are extensive, like the kavanos of Reb Shalom Sharabi, I believe, or Aryeh Kaplan writes, it takes 4 hours to say Shemona Esrei. Beis, Yesh Mishukasab School Avir Machshav and Sos B'Tefillah. So those who say that there's a way to remove a mystical way to remove your distracting thoughts during davening. Should come at Tefillah before davening. Avir Shlosh Panim Mitzvah Yad Yamino. 3 times you pass over your forehead, your right hand. If you don't mind, say each time, say each time, Leiv Torah Broli Yokim Ruach Nechom Kadesh B'Kirbi. A pure heart created from Yakodesh Baruch Hu, and a proper spirit renew within me. If he has an improper thought during davening, you should be silent a little bit. I think it's possible about Leiv Torah. It's from the Eliyah Rabbah. You should be quiet until the thought goes away. Think about things which subjugate the heart. And direct the heart of who's fallen in heaven. So you don't think about things which are frivolous. For that, you should think about the loftiness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the low stature of mankind. Remove all the pleasure of this world from your heart. Now let's kiss your young children, specifically your young children in shul. In order to bend your heart, that there's no other love which compared to the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. Gimel, it's known to the Kabbalists, that there are lofty and high intentions for davening. The men of the great assembly who made the framework of davening, who were great tzaddikim, foundations of the world, very great sages, and so prophets among them, they alluded in davening to things which are at the height of the world, and awesome unifications with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But not every mind can tolerate this. Somebody's not an absolute tzaddik, and distant from the frivolities of this world. Is not a great sage, in the revealed and concealed Torah. Best just to have in mind the meaning of the words. Understand the words with focus in the heart. It says in the Zohar, any person who comes to unify the divine name, does not have intent, believe Arusa with heart and with will, and with fear, beginning is Baruchum Be'iloi v'tatzoi, is that there should be blessed with his focus on high and below. Ramale it's closer, blah blah. They throw his tefillah out. Because Baruch Hu Kari and Hashem says, Ki tavo liros panai. When you come to see my countenance, meaning with holy unifications, maybe who asks that of you if you're not capable? Therefore, a person who is not a big makubal, stay away from the Kabbalistic thoughts.